Direct Misfire talking many war games. Bensome and Spoon are taking aim. Comment, like, and subscribe today, keeping you notified and up to date.
Hello champs, and welcome once again to another Direct Misfire Missive. Joining me today, as always, is Spoon.
Hello.
And Sellick.
Hey.
As we talk the year that's been, the year that's coming, and also we have a little chatette with Mr. Ronnie Renton. So pull up a seat, grab a drink, and let's get into it. So gents, 2018 is just about done, and what have we got to show for it? Tumbleweed?
Awkward.
Well, Vanguard is one thing that two of us have gotten into. I don't know about you, Sellick, if that's a thing that you're interested in. So we've at least assembled some figures there. I'm now getting stuck into the painting because CanCon's approaching, so old mate Hugh, his ratkin, I've put together two hordes of slaves, or clan rats, sorry, and some crap things that no one uses. What are they called? Scurriers? That's it. And just waiting on some wings to stick on a demon that he's got for his rat demon, and about to also get back into your dragon, Sellick.
Excellent.
I'm not happy with the current colour, so I'm going to try experiment with the tail end to make it lighter, to make it more white, because at the moment it's just looking very light grey.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's the plan at the moment. And I'm also, working on my goblins, because I'm pretty adamant on taking them this year. Next year, for CanCon.
How much do you have to do?
A fair bit. So all the bases, the army isn't based at all. And that's my main concern there, getting them, because then I can just pop them off and glue them on.
Yep.
But I don't have to paint too many units. I think minces, because we've all got the Clash of Kings 2019 book.
We do. What are the minces? You haven't. They weren't really spoken about on the other podcast.
Well, the mincer itself is pretty, I'd say, underwhelming by itself. It's like a chariot that isn't very good. I'll just run through the stats. So at the moment, it's speed 5, melee 4, defense 4, d6 plus 6 attacks, 9, 11 nerve, which is the bad thing about it. It's got big shield, so defense 6 on the front, brutal, height 3, thunderous charge 3, and yellow bellied. But a couple of these things are changing in the new book. So what are the changes?
So it goes from Thunderous Charge 1 to just have Crushing 1, and it loses the Yellow Belly for the Mincer.
Yep.
Do you want the Mincer mob as well?
Sure. So this is a new unit that is being brought in, and why I kind of want to take them. Yeah, run through them.
So the Mincer mob, that is a large cavalry unit, speed 5, melee 4, defense 4 plus, attacks, this is the beauty, d6 plus 24.
So 25 to 30 attacks?
That's not a typo. Nerve 14/16 for 220 points. Base size is on a chariot base, so obviously that's a pretty big unit. And big shield, brutal, crushing strength 1, thunderous charge 1, and this unit is not yellow-bellied.
And they've got a formation where you can take the mob into individual minces, and then they become speed 6 instead of speed 5.
Yeah, that's correct. So you can take one of the regiments of the mincer mob and 2 mincers to get that plus 1 speed for 20 points. Not bad.
So while the individual mincers are only 9, 11 nerve, it's defense 6 in the front, and then the mob's also defense 6, so that's something that the goblins don't really have, is some high defense stuff. But then the slasher got an upgrade as well, because the original slasher was a bit 165 points, 8 attacks, speed 7, melee 4, defense 5, 14, 16, crushing 2, thunderous charge 1, and you can add a range attack for it. What's the new stats for that one?
So I'm not sure what's been updated here, but it's on a 75 by 75.
Yep, so it was just 50 by 50, was just a standard monster, so now it's got a bigger base.
So it's crushing strength 3, piercing 2, steady aim, the new steady aim, strider, and once again not yellow-bellied. And it's got that sharp stick thrower, which is 2 attacks, d3 blast, 36 range. And I'm not sure if the stats have actually changed, but it's speed 7, melee 3, range 5, defense 5, 9 attacks, 17, 19 for 220 points.
Okay, so 165 was the original to 225. The melee is increased to melee 3 from 4, and the attacks was 8, now it's 9, and then 14, 16 to, 17, 19?
Nasty.
So I've got one of those colossal squigs from Forge World, and that's on, or I think it's like 70 by 70 base, so I just got to change that a little bit. Just thinking that can be my slasher, and I love all the units in there, so I think it's going to be a pretty elite goblin army, which is a bit weird. But I'm really keen on doing that, so I just got to get my A into G and make sure that happens, so I don't have to take my Abyssal Borfs, because I'm kind of getting tired of that.
Yeah, you have been playing them for a while.
Yeah. And what have you been doing on the hobby side of things this year?
Me?
Yeah.
Me. So it's been a tale of two armies. So I've been working pretty heavily on the undead. And I say heavily in my standards, not your standards, Bensome.
It's all relative.
So yeah, just sort of pulling out all of I think I've finished the Legion of zombies. Been working on my Barry Whites that have come over. So yeah, they're looking pretty good. So almost finished the base on those guys. Not really happy with the paint job on the actual whites, but we'll get there. And slowly constructing some other things as well. So yeah.
So what are you taking to CanCon?
It'll be the elves that I'll take. Hopefully, hopefully they're finished in time. But yeah, looking forward.
Well, they've got to be in a better position than you did last year or at the start of this year. You had to proxy a few things or borrow a few units.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I proxied quite a bit last time. So this time, hopefully, I won't have to proxy anything. But yeah, I think your dragon that you're painting for me is going to help out a fair bit. Obviously, they're pretty expensive, even if they did get a nerf with their breath attack. I'm not bitter. It's fine. It's fine.
So bitter, so salt. And Spoon, you're taking the Abyssal still?
Yeah, again. I'm just putting together the last, I've said that about 15 times, units.
It never ends. There's always another unit.
Hopefully this will be the very last. Putting together some Worm Riders to use as Harlequins.
Okay, yep. So these are Raging Heroes models?
Yeah, Raging Heroes. Yep. Tortured Souls base I'm filling up with a couple of Wasps from War Machine, or Hordes, one of the two. And I've got my big demon to paint as well. And one Temptress character as well.
Did you have like 7 big demons already? It feels like you've got a half dozen demons, like massive demons, in your Abyssal army. Or am I just imagining things? Like you got...
No, it's true.
The Cronius, and you got the big lady who's got all the tentacles kind of flinging out her back.
Yeah.
And you've got the undercoated fella with the flag who's massive as well.
Yeah. Go big or go home.
And you've also got that other guy, that Cyclopean dude with the wings that you used to use as a Well of Souls.
Yeah.
Am I missing any?
No, size does matter though for Spoon.
Right, okay.
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
For now.
Yeah.
Until the next big juicy toy comes out.
Bale, you have to take him, don't you?
Yeah. I've got Monster Runner 40mm base, so that'll do. He can be the Lord of Lies or Baal, one or the other.
And how did you find, because you had a game the other day or week with Mortibusu, the, what's her face?
Yeah. Tried her and the new Cronius. The Temptress character, she's pretty cool.
Morty.
Good old Morty.
Yeah. Adding the D3 Brutal made a big difference, like throwing her in a multi-charge and just getting those extra couple of pips for the nerve. You watch a horde of chariots go from still on the table to off the table. That was pretty cool.
Bam, and the chariots are gone.
Yeah. Cronius, I don't know. I need another game with it because I kind of reformed and then realised I didn't need to reform and lost the unit.
Right, that sounds like a pretty big mistake.
Yeah. So I'll give the Cronius another go. I can see the potential, but I'm not sure how it fits in my CanCon list yet.
Has the Clash of Kings book changed anything for you, apart from obviously Cronius, but new formations and the Harlequins you're taking from the new book?
Yeah, not to CanCon. I'm taking the Fire Legion list that I was playing against Sellick pretty much.
Okay, right.
We don't talk about those games though.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Never mind.
It's pretty one-sided.
No, sorry, you're breaking up now. I'm going through a tunnel.
I don't think it's changed too much. The changes to Abyss anyway. Ifrit down to 16 shots, and the Cronius is a bit different now.
So the Ifrit's unplayable now, yeah?
Nah, just take 2.
It's got to make up for it, take another one.
How do you feel about the teleport Ifrit combo?
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I haven't looked at that yet. Maybe if I lose the Cronius, I can afford to put a teleporting mage in there or something to get him around the board. I don't know.
But you can only do it once though, right?
Is it a legendary spell? I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, just once off.
Sounds like it feels like it's a suicide mission for your Ifrit.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be.
I don't think I'll be taking it to CanCon anyway, teleporting E-Freak.
All right, so we haven't really recorded a lot this year because of life.
Yeah, we had a great start though. I think we did the first 3 or 4 months in a row, and then life got up to all of us, and
just all at not at the same time either. It's just one after the other. So
yeah,
that
although
was
we
probably
did,
the worst
somebody
thing.
got married.
Yeah.
We've had engagements, buying houses.
Mm-hmm.
We've really pretty much had it all this year.
You think it'll continue next year? I don't think there'll be any more marriages or buying houses, probably.
Well, I hope I buy another house. That'd be nice, but I doubt it. Wait a second, I'll just download and buy another ticket for the lottery here. No, I don't think so. Spoon's actually set himself a challenge, hasn't he, for 2019?
Yeah, one big challenge.
And what's that?
My challenge is not to buy a single miniature for 2019.
And what's the penalty?
The penalty is for every model I buy, I have to play a game of Age of Sigmar.
Sweet Jesus.
Yep, so I'm never buying a model at all in 2019. That scares me enough.
Serious motivation.
Yep.
Without G-Dub smashing here, though, we do have quite a few of our usuals that are starting to play Age of Sigmar now, aren't they?
Jumping onto the bandwagon?
Yeah, well, it's a pretty big bandwagon now. If you have a look at GameCon, they've actually got a massive following at the moment, so good on them.
I thought it was 220 tickets that they sold.
220?
Yeah, it sold out. Crazy.
Damn.
Stealing all the tickets from other people. So CanCon for Kings of War, or Clash of Kings 19, I think it's 52 sold out.
Yeah, that's not bad. We got a couple in the end, and they had to turn away a few at the end as well. So
Yeah. Thanks,
they were pretty
Age of
confident.
Sigmar.
Age of Sigmar. They were pretty confident in getting up over 60, 65 or so again. I think they got last time. But yeah, they just ran out of space.
And we've got a decent contingent of our regular Wednesday night wargamers attending the Clash of Kings. So us three, Hugh, who's been on the show a couple of times, fan favourite apparently, and new bloke Andrew, who's jumping into the fold, who's had one game of Kings of War, and he's pretty keen to jump on this one. It doesn't help that the Malifaux tournament was also, that he was going to attend, was cancelled due to lack of interest.
Probably Age of Sigmar again.
Well, it's a weird time for Malifaux because everyone knows 3rd edition's coming out. It's been in beta for a while, and interest for the current edition has just died off because no one wants to buy anything because the rules might change, and yeah, it's just all a bit weird.
Yeah. Have you had a game of the next edition?
I've just looked at the rules, and I like them. They're just condensing a lot of the things because there was just special rules everywhere, and they're kind of bringing it down to just a dozen or so, and just replicating that over a few different units, so you don't have to try and remember as much, which is good. But it still seems like it's got the same kind of complexity as it originally has, just a bit cleaner. What else? I can't really say what do we hope to do next year, because we have hopes and then it just doesn't work. I mean, I hoped to record more than what we did this year, but we'll see what happens there. The next edition of Kings of War sounds interesting.
It does.
Because we had a chat with Mr. Reginald Renton. Sorry, Ronnie Renton. And he kind of spilled the beans on a few things. We've got a few exclusives.
That's right. I pretty much tonighted him, so it was more of an interrogation and an interview, but that's all right. Where are the drugs?
Did you use the flashlight and shone it in his eyes?
Yes. We got him to turn the webcam on, and then we told him to look at the screen real close, and then shine the torch into
Turn
the
up the
webcam.
contrast. Turn it up.
But yeah, there's some pretty groundbreaking exclusives that I am very happy about, and I'm sure you'll hear that shortly. Shall we just jump into it then?
Yeah, I reckon. Let's just jump in.
So we'll take a break, and when we come back, Sellick will introduce us for the interview.
Hi guys, we're here with Ronnie Renton, the CEO and founder of Mantic Games. How's it going, Ronnie?
Yeah, very well, guys. Hi, nice to speak to you all. Thank you for having me on.
We've also got Bensome here that's joining me, and we're just going to chat through a few different things. But first of all, Ronnie, I know that we've got you in trouble with your wife already, and you are, at the moment, I think it's about 8 a.m. over there?
Yep, well, it should be 8 a.m, but my technology problems have meant it's 8:21 a.m, isn't it? But
no, very true.
Smashed Discord. I nearly once closed Facebook down. That was good. So, and when isn't wargaming and getting yourself in trouble with your wife, those two things are never mutually exclusive.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. So my first question is probably going to be the most difficult. Okay. Are you a coffee or a tea man?
No, coffee every day of the week. Black. One and a bit sugars.
No, terrific. So if we sort of go outside of all of your corporate activities, getting in trouble with your wife, and as well as talking to Australian podcasts, do you actually get any time to play Mantic's games that you've sort of created?
I usually get two. When we're making a new game, I get two blasts at it. The first one is when we're talking about what the game should be, and kind of quite random. It might not look at this stage like the game you're going to play because you're working with a games designer, plus there's 2 or 3 of us internally, and you're using random minis to represent the miniatures, and you're knocking big lumps out of the turn sequence or that kind of stuff. And then we usually kind of do that as a group when we're going, look, that's a bit complicated, that's not fun. It's just, yes, it's realistic, but it's not fun, and other times, well, that's fun, but it doesn't really make sense, does it? And that type of stuff. So when you knock it around, and then once you've got the main bits in place, the game designer runs away, writes it, comes back with 2 or 3 or 4 factions, the main pieces of the turn sequence. And at that point, one of us usually is heading up the project. And at that point, the temptation to insist on everybody playing lots and lots of demo games and test games. So Dead Zone had me like that. The second version of Dead Zone, I was walking around the office going, do you want to have a quick test game of this? They were like, Ronnie, we played it 27 times. We know it's solid. Just leave it to the writer to get right in the rules and shut up. I was like, oh, okay, fine. I do, but usually out of kilter with the community, because it's when it's getting finished is when it's fresh for us, it's new, and if you like it, you just start playing the heck out of it. So Matt Gilbert at the beginning of the year was doing it with Vanguard. I'm just currently doing it with The Walking Dead. We're just trying to bring a real 2-player option to that. So I'm just kind of just in the middle of it. So we do get to play, but unfortunately, it's usually out of kilter with what everyone else is playing because it's usually 12 months.
Yeah. So how many people do you have working for you at the moment?
About half of them. Boom.
Oh, he's a comedian.
We've got 20, I think 22 or 24 UK, and then we've got a couple of guys, all at the moment part-time in the US.
Okay.
So I say two guys and one lady in the US, and there's about 24 in the UK. We've got 4 or 5 in the studio. We've got about 10 in the warehouse factory operations, and when we've got about 5 in sales and a couple of are on the online store.
Oh wow! Okay.
Bean cabs, yeah, it's pretty big. It's right. It's not small enough. There's just 5 of you, and you can just get stuff done. And it's not big enough that there's millions of you and the machine rolls on. So
not yet.
Yeah.
So during my research, I've realised that it's 10 years of Mantic Games and December.
Exactly. It starts in December.
That was a long, long time ago.
So, it is, isn't it?
It is.
Overnight success only took 10 years.
Well, we've done all right. So I guess what was the big catalyst there? So you were with GW for like 15 years or so?
Yeah, something like that, 13, 14, 15, something like that. Yep, 92 to 07, 15 years. And the first 10, 12 of those were great fun, really good fun. It was growing. You're always, looking at new things and challenging the status quo. And then it just started getting a little bit. They did the whole Lord of the Rings thing, and it kind of grew again, and then shrunk back down. But it also just getting a bit more corporate. There were PLC. They were bringing in people from Boots and other such companies. And while there was definitely some processes they brought that helped the business, it was also just becoming a bit not terribly toy soldiery, not terribly hobby.
Yep.
And I'd kind of never wanted to work in the corporate world. Otherwise, I would have done it when I left uni. So once we started getting like that, it kind of wasn't the company that I joined. It wasn't what I'd done, and I was getting older. And if I was going to do something, I better get on and do it. And I just thought there was Coke in the market, but there wasn't a Pepsi.
Yep.
There wasn't just something that offered a different and alternative view on what was being done. And so 10 years ago, I think that's when Mantic was born. I just thought there was space for the Pepsi to the Coke.
Well, I think I'm speaking for a lot of our listeners that we quite enjoy the Pepsi. No, it's been good. I was sort of very interested to see how you'd sort of gone about that first probably year and a half with Mantic.
Well, interestingly, I mean, I thought when I started up, there was quite a lot of GW's been pretty abusive with their price rises at the time, which was kind of getting people upset, and it was becoming a little bit, these were the two products and that was it, and. So I thought I'd say I'm on my own. I'll raise my flag, and people would mock. Would flock to the banner, and and an uprising would be born. And then we got our elves, and we went, they're a bit skinny, actually, a bit small. That's it. But interestingly, even from day one, I think there was a lot of people that looked at what we were doing. And I think then when we brought the undead out and the dwarfs out, people were seeing this step up in quality. They kind of knew we were slightly rabble rousers, trouble causers, but we had a kind of bit of a humour about us. But those first couple of years were hard because we generally thought we'd be able to just plough out with plastics, and I think it taught me that hobbies are hard habits to break. But once established, they're very hard habits to break. So I think people choosing to give you their hobby money is a major decision.
Yeah, definitely.
You really have to please them and delight them, and they've got to know that you're going to be around. I think there's been a lot of companies that have popped up, come out with a nice little game, been around for a year and a half, gone. And I think it was that realisation that people have to have absolute certainty that if they commit and start gluing their 20 mil bases onto square, 200s by 40s, they're committed, and it takes a lot of not only money but a lot of time and love to build up an army, to build up a gaming system, to paint all your Walking Dead figures. So you've got to treat that with respect and know and be ready to be there for the long time. And I think people after 10 years and we're just getting started that this is what we intend to do, not something else.
Yep. So you obviously right at the start you talked about the elves and that you're pretty heavily involved in it. 10 years on, are you still involved in all the new models that are coming out? No,
that's why they're good. They just keep me away from anything important these days. They like, shut up, Ronnie.
Just placate.
So no, we have we've got there's an ops guy that kind of runs the studio side of things now, and his principal skills is he's an IT project manager, so he's very organised. And Matt Gilbert, I'm sure many of you know him. He loves Kings of War. That was his kind of first love. We've got Stuart, who manages our superstar sculpt Luigi, and he's pretty much full time. We have some great concept artists. So I very likely get involved in things that are close to my heart, like when we're doing new Kings of War regiments and units and things. I want to see pictures, and before we start sculpting, that the steel behemoth is genuinely a behemoth. And it's one of those things sometimes, because you'll spend a lot of time saying, look, it's got to be castable, it's got to be makeable, and then other times you'll be in there saying, no, make it huge, make it massive, and you've got to kind of interpret that into that picture that really works. And we've had some real fun with things like Vanguard, where we're just putting out new spins on existing races and ranges that we know we're going to then roll into Kings of War in the future.
It's a pretty exciting time, obviously, with Vanguard just coming out a couple of weeks ago. How's that all going from your end?
Totally sold out in the first week of the book, and we were printing about 1,000 books, and we'd already done the Kickstarter separate. That was a separate print run. We said, no, look, this is getting some traction. We can see it's getting traction. Let's go 1,500 books, and it lasted like 3 days.
Wow.
So we've got a new print run coming in, and we do hope this is a great way. I think the Kings of War had a massive, influx a couple of years ago. It's remained steady and continued to just pick up new gamers. But actually, I think one of the tough things about a war game is the thought of buying and painting and sticking together and actually doing it 200, 300 figures. Yeah. And that was why we made all those Warhammer armies so welcome. because we knew there was that commitment that we were talking about before had been made by these people. They loved those armies. They wanted to use them. And I think by making them welcome, we brought them across. And then every Clash of Kings, every event, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it too, more and more of the armies are becoming Mantic. Even armies that are dwarfs, they all have Brock Riders, they all have Steel Behemoths. So slowly but surely people are adding, because, that's kind of what we like doing, isn't it? Buying and painting toy soldiers, but you've got to do it at your own pace.
No, that's it. So even in some of the forums that I'm reading at the moment, even though they're coming in with pre-existing armies, there's an element of respect for Mantic's game system, so people are actually wanting to invest in Mantic. So it's obviously a great sign for you guys.
And so I'm thinking that Vanguard could be a massive recruiter for Kings of War, because the idea of getting and painting a whole army is a little bit intimidating. And even if you go out and buy the army, it's still a couple of months before you've got it glued together and got it on the gaming table. Vanguard, you can do that in a weekend. You can buy it on the Friday night to be playing Saturday morning and have played 10 games by Sunday night and, have it half painted. So it's lovely, and it introduces people into the style of games we play, which I think people find really refreshing and easy and quite good fun. We try not to let it get too nasty with the army list, although at the moment I think people are finding some pretty good ways of being beastly. But
no, that's what they love to do, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Let's find a small hole and then make it massive.
Yep, gouge it.
So yeah, but no, I think Vanguard's lovely. And the really nice minis, the art style, the play style is really good fun. I think the fact that it's a very narrative game, but not the same game every time. So once you know the mechanics, but every setup, we'll start popping out new scenarios online for people that are playing it. So, but you've got Catch the Giant, Save the Princess, Defend the Cart. And, we're recommending when you play it both ways. First you defend the cart, and then that should take an hour, and then let your opponent defend the cart and you attack the cart, the supplies, for example. Because every game, even if you play the same game twice in an evening, you'll both do very different things when defending and attacking, both because of your forces and because of the way you play. Yep. And, it's a really interesting way of, normally you line up, beat each other up. Having these very moving objectives, changing objectives, we think is good fun, and I think people are loving that about Vanguard, and so
yeah, definitely. So one actual thing, I'm glad you sort of brought it up. Inside the Vanguard book, the art is starting to get pretty amazing, and one image actually spiked my interest, and I know it spiked Bensome's interest as well, where it's the map. So nothing gets past me, Ronnie. So I'm actually quite interested, and it's a loaded question, around, is there sort of plans to expand? And if so, what can you tell us?
Well, you might think that I couldn't possibly come. I presume you're talking about the large map in the Elven Those Who See Everything large library.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
And have you found the bit of Mantica that you know about so far?
We have.
Yep.
And is there other things on the map?
Indeed, there is.
There is.
Well, there we go then.
Wow, there we go.
Yeah, you've spotted our little Easter egg in there. That was not by accident. That was Matt being mischievous and specced out exactly what he wanted. So yeah, we've got plans for the Worlds of Hell. I think it's going to get a new name because no one likes Mantica. So that's probably just going to be Europe.
Oh, excellent. You've just made me a very happy man.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I mean, we had one of the hardest things is naming stuff.
Yeah,
it's one of those and we're currently naming a game that's coming out or coming to Kickstarter middle of next year, and just hours. I mean, we spend many hours on the gameplay and the characters and the drawings and everything else, and talk about how we'll play everything else, and then you've got all of that up together. And that's about half the time we've spent on trying to find the name.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can't just use a fantasy name generator from the internet. It just doesn't work.
It's good fun on Facebook, not quite so good fun when you're going to launch it out there, and it's got to explain what it is, but it's not going to be copyrighted. It's got to be something that you can, So I'll come back on the podcast once it's announced, and I'll talk you through all the different names we had that no one will let me use, but they're hilarious, and I love them, but they're not going to let me use those. And so I remember Alessio having written Kings of War, and I think it was he'd obviously he'd done the last version of 40k and Warhammer, and he wasn't allowed to do some of the things he wanted to do with Warhammer. He thought it was genuinely in need of a complete freshener, and he'd got all of his ideas together and said no, and then so I think once he'd left, he could really kind of see the game that he wanted to write. And it just so happened that we were looking for Kings of War to be written. And so he kind of just, I said, it should be like this, and this, none of that, lots of this, blah, blah, blah. We had a really good conversation. And then somehow he just wrote it. I mean, he literally just sat down, he used to come into the office and just... And a few weeks later, there's this work of genius that was just written. And I think we got, in the core rules, which have been evolved and the nerve and everything else, but I think it's a wonderful game system. I remember very vividly one conversation where he says, what should we call it? I says, well, it's a gaming system, And I'd seen in the past so many people getting obsessed by the background. They forgot that really it's the rules that people play with day in, day out. And at this point, we were background light, which, Mantica. Yeah, let's go with Mantica. It's not going to matter anyway, is it? So it's one of those, no, we didn't spend days and days and hours like poring over the names. Yeah, God, it'll be fine, actually. We'll do a little map and off they go. It'll just be gaming. And anyway, needless to say. So I think we've decided that as we talked about the map and what we were going to do and how we're going to, we've got some really interesting ideas for kind of keeping to develop the world. That was one of the things that came out of it. But yeah, you spotted the Easter egg in the Elven map room. It's cool, isn't it?
No, it is very good.
Bugger all the leaks for the Clash of Kings 19 book. That, just knowing that the name's going to change, that just topped everything for me. I'm so happy now. It's one of those things. It just somehow comes across as naff. And I think we're just morphing away. Because we've got an RPG coming next year with some really superstar RPG writers, which is great. I'll be keen for that one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will. I think people will buy it just as a background book too. And, there's Mark Langworthy, the main writer, just has always loved our stuff and wants to come and do it. And he's an RPG writer, so he really knows what he's doing. That was, critical for me. We've got, obviously, the novels now started to hit. I think they're going up on the website. Where you can get those from Winged Hussar Publishing. So that background is really coming to the fore. And I think with what we've been doing with the summer campaign and the Eye of the Abyss and everything else, the world is really taking shape and people are wanting to set stuff in it. So I think it was the only little niggle was that name, because it just always jarred. And so let's get rid, because I think we're going to have some great fun in this world for years to come. There's so many good stories that can be told, and I think it's a fascinating setting, a kind of world in flux. There's not one baddie force. Okay, there's the Abyss, but it's not. It's not 1 minute to midnight.
It's only a small part at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of the main protagonists, and there's just going to be lots of them, and it's a good setting, and I can see people generating fantastic characters.
Yep. So that was the Worlds of Hell, was it, that you mentioned?
But the Worlds of Hell. You're dropping names to me now.
Subtle hints, mate. No, I was just sort of wondering, is there anything that you're able to tell us about all the vacant areas of the map? Is there some sort of zones that you're...
I've told you they're definitely getting filled. That's what we're working on right now. I mean, that's exactly the stuff, and we're just talking
baby
the
steps,
storyline.
Baby steps.
So, I mean, yeah, I've got a few things that I kind of want to say to you here, but it's going to be, because it's so long between now and getting out, someone else could come along and nick it, and I don't want that to happen. So there is bits where you just have to be, but what you saw and what you spotted in the Elven Library was exactly what we hoped would be spotted and seen, and it's changing, it's moving on. We've got a lot of exciting ideas for how it's going to be, but we're right in the middle of it. And if I say something now and then it doesn't actually happen, people get cross with me.
Definitely.
And some of the ideas we've got are kind of really fun and bonkers. So we're gonna, I just got to keep them under wraps for a little bit long. But I'll come back on in 6 months, 8 months time, and we can discuss it then. How about that?
Excellent.
Yep, sounds terrific. So is there any more? Mike, I noticed that the Tales of Mantica actually was released probably about 4 or 5 months ago. Is there any more sort of books like that are coming out?
Yeah, the guys are committed to 4 a year for the next 3 years. So there's 12. So for some reason, everyone is completely fascinated with the Brotherhood at the moment. So every author comes to us and says, can I write a story about the Brotherhood? And we say, no. We have been working on the Brotherhood, actually. We've kind of started taking our own spin on it. That could be quite interesting.
Okay.
How they're going to, we kind of, obviously, as we welcomed everybody in, we took everything as it was. But increasingly, what we're now trying to do is take each thing to have it in our own story. So, as we're getting, we always said if we're going to do human-based armies, they're going to have a very strong fantasy feel about them. So the Basileans, which are your, archetypical armoured knights and, feudal society, have living angels with them. They're the forces of good, and there's a massive fantasy element to it. They literally have, living gods walking amongst them. So that's where the Basileans took, and you can see the Northern Alliance is a union of elves and dwarves and humans with giants. It's kind of a hippie society of the fantasy races. The Varangor will be the evil version of that. So, kind of living in a similar space, but just not quite so nice. So, we're really embedding fantasy into it. And one of the things we thought about the Brotherhood, or didn't like about the Brotherhood, was it was quasi-French medieval. It was very lifted. There wasn't a lot of fantasy in it. There wasn't a lot of interest. So we kind of, that's why we broke them up as an empire. Doesn't mean they're all dead. It just means that them as a recognised force, less so. And actually, the way we're taking them on is that they're going to be kind of end up probably being like almost mercenaries for hire, because they're these well-trained troops and they're well-stocked, and they'll come out and so some of them will ally to Basileia and will take on their gods and the Basileans, being complete, very lovely people, will use them as the first layer between them and the Abyss. So, yes, of course you're welcome to live, and of course you can have our hegemony and patronage. Go and live there. Go and build your castles.
Operation Get Behind the Brotherhood.
and then the rest of them are... So, I want to do a Vanguard faction for it. I think it'd be very cool. And they're slightly run down. All of their equipment's getting slightly shabby and having to be held together because they no longer have these castles to build, and they have to hire themselves out. And then some of them will be quite rich and will be very pumped, but their troops will kind of just not quite. So I think that could be a really fun way where they're, kind of broken heroic guys that are kind of trying to do the right thing, and life is just constantly, messing with them and kind of slightly destroying them. So,
so that's the future of Brotherhood, is it?
I think it's probably mooching in that direction, with them having to broken apart ally to others, and then in exchange for the Basilean hegemony, they'll give them horses and they'll give them equipment, so they'll end up kind of having a theme of the Basilean about them. The others out there, kind of to hang on to their glories past, and others just randomly will take over a castle and live there and plough the fields around it. The whole idea with lots of the structures of Kings of War is that, you're the king and your empire is, 20,000 people. It's a small keep. It's, the Holy Roman Empire, as Germany was back in the, 13th century. It's just, a real mishmash, a real melting pot of, there's some mountains, there'll be dwarves, there'll be goblins in there. There's constant reasons for a good scrap.
No, that's it. So I do believe you did international history and politics at university many moons ago.
I did indeed. Yeah. And the only difference is if it's after 1945, it's called politics, and if it's international politics, before that, it's called history. So history stopped in 45. So yeah, it was good fun. That was it was the only way I could study history and basically spend my time reading about wars and battles and the interesting bits, the interesting characters of history, and not spend my time doing medieval religious policy.
Fair enough. So my next sort of question here is all about the Drakon Rider. So back in January, we had some concept art, and I think there may have been one or two renders floating around. So it's 11 months on now. Is there any sort of updates there?
I saw the sketches, but I've never seen the sculpts. So I'll be honest with you, I don't quite know where they are. I think they're getting to the reset the clock kind of territory, aren't they? If we,
yeah.
I'll chase it up. I saw that you were going to ask about that. And we've been talking about the elves quite a bit because the game that I was telling you about earlier that I can't name yet, they feature quite prominently in that. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if something along there, cute little baby dragons are in there. So it could be interesting. So I suspect it'll be. I suspect everything will become clear in the next couple of months, because then we can announce and no one else will have time to pinch our wonderful idea.
So much intrigue.
Yeah. Oh, we've got some plans. We've been hatching. We are. We're creating some troubles. Yeah. No, it's good stuff.
So I think the Night Stalkers is the next cab off the rank. They obviously got included in Vanguard, and I do believe that there's a couple of Night Stalker models that are getting released in January.
Feb, actually, I think we've swapped it around just because of the print or something, but basically Jan and Feb. So we're in a kind of 6-month Kings of War love bonanza, love fest. We were getting, people like, you're not doing anything with Kings of War. You said, well, there's only a few of us, and it's much better if we do a string of things together and it builds momentum and kind of gets people excited and away you go, rather than a little bit for this, little bit for that. And we've kind of, because we engorged ourselves on those Kickstarter early years, we ended up with about 4 gaming systems that are really quite good and people want more stuff for. So what have we done? Vanguard, which brought out the Night Stalkers, the Northern Alliance, some more for the Abyss, and some more for the Basileans. We've got Clash of Kings come out this month. I think is shipping now for your pre-order at massivegames.com and your local gaming store.
Oh, nice plug.
Yeah, like that. Boom, that's my special video voice. Available at all good retailers. And then we've got the Resin Dwarfs for Vanguard coming out next month. And I think the one thing that we should say for everybody that's a Kings of War player that has vowed not to play Vanguard, well, firstly, you're mad, change your mind. But should you have chosen that, all those models are Kings of War models. I'm still doing my dwarf army. And I'm when I'm putting a regiment together, I just want a figure in the middle that looks like the sergeant, the captain, the guy in charge. And you go through that Vanguard box of dwarf that's coming out, same with the Basilean, same with all the others. These are your champions. And I know sometimes in the game you don't always have them in the unit, but you want the unit to look cool. You want that kind of individualism, and that's what these models are. So also, the big dwarf, not Iron Ancestor.
Juggernaut, is that right?
Yes, that's it. Juggernaut. Dwarf Juggernaut. Iron Juggernaut. He's going to be a unit in Kings of War, and we're testing him out here, showing it off, and then that's going to roll into Kings of War regiments. So there is a real kind of, even if it's Vanguard, it's not Kings of War. Complicated way of saying it is Kings of War. And of course, when you go smaller, you make more stories. You make more. Dead Zone came to life because we went down to the tactical level. When you're at the mass battle level, it's all kind of strategic and sweeping. But when you swoop in, the characters that come out of that, the mercenaries and the stories and what have you, it kind of gives a life to like we did with the Brotherhood. It came about because we were talking to them as a small Vanguard unit. What's the captain's name? How does he? Why would his troops follow him? What's he all about? Then it's Night Stalkers, and that's a whole army. So we've got the scarecrows and the rest of the army that's in hard plastic, a few bags of PVC, and then some resin bits just as your leaders and standout pieces. So it's lovely. Nice.
Now, I know that there's a lot of people waiting very eagerly for that, so it's good to know. Yeah,
we're keen. We kind of popped it out as something for fun in the Uncharted Empires, which I think the only negative there is if someone's gone and built it from their own model. It's a bit heartbreaking when all of a sudden an army comes out and it looks very different than what you've done. But I don't think many people did that. And I think if we hadn't done that, it would have felt a little bit, not rushed, but just like popped out of nowhere. Whereas by having it around and people asking about them and then us being able to know, there's a lot of interest in this and it's another part of the soon not to be called Mantica story. It's another real innovative, interesting story, and don't just want to play games where those guys are hiding around every corner or skulking across the battlefield or in a dungeon that you're fighting through. They're just frightening and disgusting and slightly twisted. And Matt Gilbert looks so normal, yet clearly he isn't.
Well, he does. I've seen pictures, but we'll see. So I won't want to keep you on too much longer, Ronnie, but my probably my last question here is more around the 3rd edition. So it's starting to get more legs on some of the rumours now. So I'm wondering, obviously you've got a yet-to-be-named game that's coming out, and then I'm assuming that we'll probably start looking at the 3rd edition. So is there anything that you can sort of share about that or some timelines at all?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think everyone's feeling it's ready for it, which actually is perfect. We don't want to force a 3rd edition onto people if they're saying, no, we're loving what we've got. And, otherwise it's just a selling exercise. That's not what we're about, because actually building the hobby and getting people into it is far more important to the longevity than than, gouging some cash. So but it does starting to feel that we're hearing and we're seeing the rumours, and it's something that we, like FIFA 21 is being worked on, or FIFA 19. We're always thinking about it and thinking, having ideas. And whenever we talk about Clash of Kings books, we're like, okay, what do we want to do? Well, let's try out that. Because it might be good for the 3rd edition. But it does feel like the momentum to see us to do one is there. It's time for just tightening up and freshening up. And, because you're all such swines when you get hold of the army lists, no matter how much we try. The first year or two, no one can quite break them because, we've written them fairly carefully to not be, like utterly beastly. But then slowly people start doing it and then finding one and then going again until after about 4 years, people have just got some armies that you're looking at going, yeah, we never thought that was going to be possible when we set the rules. So it does feel like it's getting there. We're 10 years old next year. The Elves came out in September of 2009. I don't know. Join your own dot. But no, something we're definitely going to work on. I think it will take us a while, and we don't want to just work on the rules. We also want to sort out Mantica. We want to sort out the fluff, the background, the whole story, and be ready for the next phase. We do have a game system now that's, one of the biggest mass battle fantasy gaming systems in the world. We love it. Lots and lots of other people love it. It's constantly growing and changing and getting bigger and more exciting. So we want to treat it with love and respect. So it will happen, but I think it's a while away yet. We've just put Vanguard out. We've got a new Night Stalker army out. I think it's down for next summer's summer campaign.
Oh, terrific.
We'll keep working, but we don't want to. We're loving what we've got. So when we do it, we'll give everyone fair warning and make sure everyone's involved. But it's not next week or next month.
Okay. So I guess from here, mate, I just want to really thank you. Obviously, 10 years ago, coming out and making a massive big decision and a bit of a gamble to follow your passion. I know that there's, as you've mentioned, a giant big community of people that are following your games, and they're absolutely loving it. So thank you very much for coming on the show, and thank you very much for starting Mantic, and thank you, importantly, for changing Mantica.
Thank you. 1,000 times thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on. I want to get down over to Oz sometime soon and come and see you guys playing and gaming. I know there's a very vibrant community down there. Yeah, and also we've got things like, Terrain Crate range that just came out, was picked up by one of the big distributors. So it's lovely because now we're able to start putting those products out into the kind of wider gaming community. And what we don't tell them is the money they give us, we then spend on Kings of War. So it's good. So now hopefully our Oz market is going to keep growing, because I know there's a real lovely hardcore group there. But over the next 10 years, we want to make that much bigger.
Looking forward to it. Once again, thank you very much for your time. Thank your wife. Obviously, you're in trouble with her.
So, she's just come back from the school run now, so I'll go back and start eating some humble pie.
No, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
Thank you. See ya.
Keep gaming. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
And we're back. So what do you think of that? The best news ever. Mantica is getting its name changed. Finally.
Oh, thank God.
That is all my Christmas presents combined.
That's it. I'm also pretty interested about this new game, the unnamed game. I'm quite interested to see where that sort of fits in.
What was that one called?
Unnamed game. Yet to be named.
Fantastic. And the changes for the Brotherhood, I know they'll kind of put the seeds in place with the Edge of the Abyss, kind of killing off a whole bunch of them. But how they're going to develop lore-wise, background-wise, sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I'm in two minds about it, to be honest. So one side of me doesn't want them to just become hired guns and just fit into other armies. I really like that. But on the other side, I'm very pleased that they are going to have their own lore. So I was a little bit concerned that they would just be slowly absorbed into other armies rather than being their own thing.
Do you think that their army, it'll be their own thing, but they'll take influences from other armies because they are ragtag now?
Yeah. No, I do like that. But it's pretty good. I'm glad that he sort of woke up that early and, and obviously got in trouble. But do appreciate it, Ronnie. Once again, I know we thanked you about 400 times on the podcast, but once again, appreciate it.
And there's also one more bomb that we need to drop, but you have to listen to right at the very end of this cast. Mr. Renton himself will say what's coming. But other than that, I think that's us for this year. How about we just thank everyone? Thanks to all of our guests that we've had on in 2018, and also to you, our listeners, our champions.
Thanks for sticking with us, even if we have said some rather bizarre things.
And most importantly, thanks everyone that's following us on Twitter, obviously on Facebook. That interaction really keeps us going. And while we're bored in meetings like myself, it does give me something to post back about. So thank you very much.
And I'd also just like to implore everyone to stay safe over the festive period and to make safe choices. But also remember that we're here if you need to speak to someone about anything, even if it's not wargaming related. I know this time can be tough, and I think we need to keep that in mind. If you know someone who may be a little lonely or down or just even a little distant, reach out, give them a hug or a kind word, and let them know that you're thinking of them and that they matter, because you matter. So again, if anyone is struggling, please send us a direct message or email, and we'll be happy to chat and listen to you and hear you out and hopefully make you feel a little better, perhaps. Anyway, thanks again to our fabulous champions, you lot who are keeping us going, and we all hope to see you next year.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, guys.
You got Mantica out of me. We've never announced that. You've got a world exclusive scoop there. It's a lie. We're not really doing that. I was just going to build your hopes up. 3rd edition comes out in January. The summer campaign. The whole world will explode and everybody will play on round bases. Damn, I've fallen for the oldest trick in the book. They keep the microphone going after the interview has ended.
Yeah, direct misfire blowing up the game. Talking many war games is our aim. From rulebooks to advice, we cover it all. With the best tactics, we never fall. Bensome and Spoon are your hosts every vid. Misfiring, but aiming up ahead. Comment, like, and subscribe today, keeping you notified and up to date. Come check us out at facebook.com/Direct Misfire, or shoot us over an email at directmisfire@gmail.com.